Is Illfonic about to save the asymmetrical horror genre? With Gun Media's failure on Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the shutdown of F-13, between Saber Interactive's handling with Evil Dead the game, Illfonic is coming in with a lot of weight on their shoulders here. Now, I will say Illfonic has done these games before, and they have them still up and running. There has been no shutdowns, nothing like that. Killer Clowns from Outer Space, I'll go over the controversial thing here. They don't push out content for it, and I'm going to defend them here. They really don't have an option. They can't really push out content that they don't have access to. Killer Clowns from Outer Space only has one movie. They don't have a series. They don't have multiple movies. They only have one movie, and they didn't even get all access to the things for Killer Clowns from Outer Space in that movie. They only got some things, so they kind of couldn't do nothing there. And then with Predator Hunting Grounds, a lot of people keep saying they don't send out updates when they just recently had a content update. So that game still gets updated after 6 years. That game still gets its content. So Illfonic does have a lot of weight on their shoulders, but they're known for keeping games up and running. Gun Media and Illfonic have worked together before on F-13, which we all know was a big hit when that game came out. It pulled in numbers, it pulled in eyes. It was actually dominating the horror world for quite a little bit. It was actually competing with DBD at the time. And then they ran into content issues. Not them personally, but the people who owned the movie were running into rights, and they had to go to court, and they had to deal with all that, which caused Gun Media to not be able to push out content, give us DLCs, and they had to shut the game down, which is disappointing because Gun Media actually eventually came out and showed us all the content they had planned for that game. We were supposed to get Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason Goes to Space. We were supposed to get all of that, and then the big shutdown came. And then with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that is all on Gun Media's fault. They came out and just said, we made our own ending to this game. There was no ending. We made our own ending to this game, and we decided that we don't want to make content anymore. And then when the fans went and said we need an apology for what happened, they came out and just bashed on the fans and said, I'm sorry if your life is that sad that you need an apology. And I basically sat there and said, well, there goes their careers. That's down the drain because you decided to bash your fans for something that you fucked up on. And then moving on to Saber Interactive, when they were doing Evil Dead the game, they basically had everybody behind them. They had the hype, they had the player base, and then they were just like, we don't feel like we could do the content anymore. We're just going to go ahead and shut it down and move on to something else, which, by the way, they're moving on to a couple of things. They released Toxic Commando, they are releasing Hellraiser, and they are going on to release John Wick the game. Props to them for stepping up and redeeming themselves after the big shutdown. I will say, though, they had so much hype behind that game, and they wanted to give it a shot, and they had the potential. If they would have just kept up with the updates, giving us content, that game would still be up and running right now, but sometimes things don't go to plan. Saber, unfortunately, had to shut it down. Not their fault. It's all good, because now they're redeeming themselves. But unlike Gun Media, there's no redeeming yourself after that. Unless you can actually help Illfonic out here and make a good game just like F-13, people might start forgiving you. Here's why Illfonic might understand the genre differently. Every time they have made an asymmetrical horror game, it has been a different experience all the time. It hasn't been the same repeated stuff, the same used assets. Predator Hunting Grounds, for example, is not your average 4v1 asymmetrical horror. It is asymmetrical, but with that game, you have to try and kill Predator. You have to work together and stop him. And then when it came to Killer Clowns from Outer Space, they changed the way the exits work. They changed the way the combat worked. They changed the way the weapons looked, the movement played out. They changed everything in that game as well. Now with Halloween the game, we can see so much more that they've done to this one as well, including combat, movement, powers, skill cards. They have changed so much when it came to Halloween the game, and that's why I said they understand this genre a lot more than so many other companies, and I think they can actually get it done here. And here's the thing with Illfonic and what they could bring to the table. You see, if this game does well in the first maybe couple of months, 3 months, 4 months, they can actually go ahead and go get the rights to all the other Michael Myers movies if they really wanted to, which would then precede more content updates, more DLCs, more, cosmetics for Halloween, which would include Michael Cosmetics, Survivor Cosmetics, whatever you want, you would get access to that, which Illfonic has actually came out and stated themselves multiple times that if this game does good, they will probably and possibly move on to getting the DLCs for other movies. Like we might see 2018, we might see Halloween Kills, you know, we might see all those make it into the game if this game actually gets the numbers and gets the players that it needs. But here's the question: can Illfonic restore the confidence in the asymmetrical genre? And I think they seriously can. If they put in the work, the effort, keep giving it their all, giving us content and DLCs, I think they seriously can restore all that confidence. And I feel like if they do really good here, they might get a bunch of other offers to make other asymmetrical horror games once they are done with Halloween the game, which would possibly mean once they are done with all the other movies and bringing it into the game, they would then have to go on to make, you know, other games as well, which would be a good thing because that would just show Illfonic seriously has so much, you know, love for this genre. Anyways, that is going to be it for this video. Please leave in the comments what you guys think, if Illfonic seriously can restore that confidence and bring back the asymmetrical horror genre. And I will catch you on the next one. Leave a like, subscribe, turn post notifications on so you do not miss another horror video. I'll catch you all soon.